Welcome to the Inspired Focus podcast. This is your host, Jaime O'Connor. This episode is a special one, and I am so excited, as always, for you to hear it. This is the first of what will be many of the Val interviews. I asked my good friend, Val Brown, to come on and interview me so that my listeners can get to know me a little bit better. I chose her because she has been an inspiration, a mage, a guide, someone who saw in me the things I didn't see in myself yet before I really stepped into this work. And I am so deeply grateful because she asks the most brilliant questions and helps to bring out sides of me that I don't always get out when I'm talking by myself. So here is the first episode of a Val interview, and I hope you love it and enjoy it as much as I enjoyed recording it with her. Here you go.
Hi, I'm Val Brown, the CEO and founder of Val Brown Communications, and today I am absolutely honored to be here with Jaime O'Connor. She's the host of the Inspired Focus podcast and a multi-time entrepreneur in leadership and purpose alchemist. And, Jaime created the Inspired Focus podcast for seekers and doers like you who are being called to live a more meaningful and impactful career in life while still managing to create wealth and freedom. And Jaime has amazing guests who are going to share their secrets and life strategies about how they left the hustle culture behind and stepped into living a fully aligned life. Jaime helps epic and driven human beings step into their greatest power and purpose by finding flow, defining success on their terms, and becoming truly self-authored in their life. Welcome, Jaime. I am so excited to be here to introduce you and your new podcast.
I am so grateful for you to be here with me and helping be by my side as I get this creation off the ground.
It's exciting. It's really, I am thrilled to be here. And what I'd like to do right now is just take a few minutes and help listeners get to know you a little bit better and what led you to start your podcast. And I know you recently just closed down a really successful digital marketing business to follow your passion, and it's an incredible story. So can you take a few minutes here and share what led you to leave a successful business behind to start this new chapter?
Yeah, I love this question. And I love it coming from you because you witnessed so much of this journey and my own transformation and my decisions to make this move. And, about 2.5 to 3 years ago, I was 3 years into the business. I had reached, $500,000 a year, and I kind of plateaued there. And I had everything I'd ever dreamed of. Like everything I'd put down on a vision board was around me. I had all of the things in my life that I wanted. And I was so unfulfilled. I had just this aching for more. And then I was creating so much shame around that as well. And I really started seeking where do I find this ability to wake up every day so excited and fulfilled about my life? And I started doing deep devotion, deep inner look and guidance to myself and through guides and mentors. And it unraveled over many different experiences, many different periods, plant medicine, a lot of different pieces came into play that allowed me to connect to what I believe my dharma is, what my purpose is, and start being able to activate this need, this desire in other people, especially women. And the more and more I stepped into that work, the more I was lit up every day. And I was like getting my own pieces. And it was people like you. I mean, you were such an angel in my life when you came into my life to interview me for content for the agency, because you saw something in me. And I had this like series of people showing up in my life, seeing in me what I hadn't yet seen in myself. So all of that led me to be in this place of just deep knowing of what I needed to do. And I woke up one day, basically in September, and I just knew it was just time. It was time to cut the cord of everything I built before. And I was so deeply grounded in that decision. I was so deeply grounded in being so proud of what I'd created and everything that I had built out of it. And that it was time for me to move on from that energy and that work and that life and step entirely and fully into what had previously scared the living crap out of me, honestly.
I was going to say, it was no act of courage. I watched, as you kept taking each step and doing the work, and fully owning that and doing it's deep, deep work to show up to be able to serve others the way you serve others. And I think one of the things that leads us to that, like you said, is just not feeling fulfilled, but also when you see something that really sets your hair on fire and you feel like, I got to do something about that. And so in your doing your work, what was it that just was that thing that was like, oh, if I could do something about this?
Gosh, there's so many things. And it's funny because as I'm going to talk about this in the digital marketing world that I came from, the through lines and the threads, I also now see deeply in the personal development world as well. And that is it's this place of people being so drawn into what everyone else tells them is success. And this isn't just the digital marketing world. It is our world. It is how we as a society are indoctrinated into believing how success needs to look and letting everyone else around us define that for us from a really young age. And then it just exasperates itself as we get into these fields. And I think that that's particularly true with entrepreneurs once they take that step to go out and do their own thing, right? They take that step to build their own thing and they're out there doing it. And then they're still being driven by this outside source and not a deep inner guidance. And people take advantage of that. There's a lot of that in the online space. There's a lot of that all over the world, but a lot in the online space. And there's a lot of shame that is wound within that. And there's a lot of area where people are trying to say you need someone else. Right. You need someone else to do this for you, to teach you this thing, to guide you. And there's not enough people out there teaching you how to learn that guidance actually exists within yourself.
Right.
That's true in the digital marketing world, and that's true in the personal growth world. And my entire goal is that anyone who works with me walks away with such a strong inner compass that they don't ever have to work with me again if they don't want to, but the energetics of our relationship continue to help them up level if they so choose.
Right. So it's the opposite of dependence then. It's
totally.
Your job is to put yourself out of a job, right?
Yeah. And as you know, I did that in my agency and every job I had before. My entire goal was to get myself to stop working through efficiency, through making it so I was replaceable in my business. And I encouraged all my employees to do the same thing. And in reality, inner work is the same mindset. It's the same mindset. How do I get myself to a place where I can be inspired by other humans, but I don't have to rely on them? I can have so much inner guidance and so much inner compass and so much connection to my own spirit and my own source that I know I'm in my power.
Mm, I love that because when we've had this conversation, and I know there are plenty of other people out there that feel the same way. It's that external versus the internal, right?
Mm.
And it's letting all the noise from the outside. I say, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. And when you work from the internal, you actually have the power to give yourself permission to focus on what you know is the right next step. Would you
Yeah.
agree?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And so often, if we don't have that connection, we're allowing ourselves to be led by things that really take us further away from our
Mm.
purpose, our dharma, what we're meant to do on this earth, that makes us feel like this is everything. And I can't wait every day,
Mhm.
because we are lacking self-trust. We're lacking safety within ourselves. And so much of the education out there in all industries and personal growth is so based around tactics and productivity hacks and mindset hacks. And you're not first dealing with like deep inner trust and deep inner safety that most of us didn't ever learn to have growing up. We were not given the tools or the chance to cultivate that within ourselves.
Yeah, and it's something that happens to all of us. I mean, I have found places in my life I was socialized a certain way growing up, and you create these stories that you carry around with you your whole life, and they are silent and they shape your filter, the way you look at the world. And so I'm just wondering, as you look out and you see this where people are looking externally instead of internally, I know it's got to break your heart.
Yeah. I mean, you just sense the energy in someone and you can see their brilliance just lying right there underneath. You see it in everyone. I see it in everyone.
Well, we all
And
have it. Yeah.
yeah. And you see how these layers that have been built on top of it. I mean, I know I was that way for so long. It's so interesting because I look back on especially those 2 years leading up to making these major decisions. And I always had this like cognitive dissonance between what I hear other people see in me, because all of us humans, right? We have our spidey senses and we can sense energy whether you realize it or not. And that's, we can see in other people their deep beauty. And we can also see the energetic projections that are happening kind of on the subliminal level. And I had this dissonance between what I would hear people like you, like Nick, like Mike, like Tony, Grabmeyer, like all these are all people who saw these things in me. And I just connect it to myself because I was so deeply lacking trust. And now, having gone through that journey and having cultivated my own sense of container and safety, I can hold that space for somebody else going through that journey.
Absolutely. And what I want to share with listeners is that it is a process, and it's just been so
Mm.
beautiful to watch you step into your power. And when we start realizing that we are our own power generating station, right? And we get really accustomed to looking externally for it. But when you start generating your own power, there are no words. And
It's so true.
and when you've arrived, because it's such a
Mm.
different feeling. Like, what you were talking about is showing up every day. I can't wait to do. Like, I always
Mhm.
like to say, I wonder what's going to happen today. Right. And
Love that.
it's an excitement looking forward to the day, and not, I have to do my day.
Yeah.
And then it's not just a list of to do. And that's one of the things that I think is so important when you talk about helping people into their greatest power and purpose by finding their flow. Can we talk a little bit about what that is and what that looks like?
Yeah. Well, I think in this leads into that question too. One of the things about what you had just said, I think is really important in that it is a process. And sometimes all you need is somebody to hold the space for you and the permission to step into it.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes it's not a whole lot more than that. Sometimes it's more, right? Sometimes it's hypnotherapy and deep, neuroplasticity retraining and all of these things that I've been training in the last couple of years. But sometimes it's just having somebody to hold the permission for you. And then the goal is that you find the place that is your personal, completely self-authored definition of success. No one else's but yours. And what puts you into states of flow, into gnosis and a place of deep inner connection. And what is that for you? It may not be my routine in the morning at 5:45. Like I can share with you the tools I use and maybe something in that will deeply connect to you, but yours might be going on a 10-minute walk every day. Yours might be something that no one else does. It could be doing a weird witchy ritual in your backyard. These are all things that you get to define for yourself. And so much of the time, what's so interesting, and this was completely my experience, is that the things that we are so afraid to touch because we have judged ourselves and shamed ourselves for even like looking at that thing or being in desire of something in our life is exactly the thing that we actually have to explore to allow ourselves to be exactly whoever we are, even if that's a weird freak flag you want to fly. I mean, 2 years ago, I would have never been willing to openly admit most of the things that are my daily drivers today. That I love pulling tarot cards and that I love altered states and connecting to God and source in whatever ways, whether that's breath work or a couple times a year, dedicated plant medicine experience. These are all things that a couple years ago, I would have judged myself so deeply for. And I have found my ways of finding my flow, of being deeply connected and allowing whatever comes through to come through without shame. And so that's what it's about. It's about allowing people to step in and connect to what is them, their unique snowflake self, their unique self-authored definition of success, and letting that be the driving force and standing in that power versus whatever everyone else for their entire life has told them is right or okay or how they should be.
I just want to take a minute and let that soak in. No, I'm serious because what you're talking about is giving yourself permission to be you.
Yeah, totally.
And as long as we keep looking to an external source to say, is that it? Is that it? Is that it? The noise that creates. And another thing I'm really struck by is that notion of creating a safe container, like to live for your presence to be in, right? And I'm curious if there was like one moment that like there was a spark, or was this just a gradual, like every time you took one more step, it was like the horizon opening up? I know everybody's experience is going to be different, but I'm curious.
It's both. I had grand moments and I had little tiny moments that all added up together. I'm packing up right now to move my family to Mexico, which is an amazing story. That's for another episode.
I was going to say, it's a big story.
I'm not going to get into that part yet.
It's a great story.
But I've come across some of my journals over the last 2 years, and there's so much gold in there and so much that came out of just these quiet moments in the morning journal. So it's those things that slowly added up of like hearing the message, writing the message, and embodying the message over time that I got from myself, sometimes outwardly inspired, but then cultivated through my own way of being. And then it was major moments. It was major moments of walking through my own shadows. I mean, I had an initial experience that broke down everything. It broke down every single wall, and it set me into a deep, dark state for quite a long time. And I was searching for how to get out of it because I knew this was like the breakthrough I'd been looking for. And I unfortunately wasn't in a container at the time that really gave me a lot of integration and support. And so I was going to psychedelics a lot to try and find answers outside myself. And I made some really poor decisions that I had to face. And I had to face forward with my husband and sit down and fully admit those to myself. And what came out of those honest conversations with him was that I had unveiled parts of myself I had very purposely probably put in a closet a long time ago. I was really excited about them and I was shaming myself for them at the same time. And I was so afraid that if I stepped fully in, if I fully embodied this, that I would lose everything that I had in my life. I would lose my husband and my son, and that I wouldn't be accepted by them. And the conversation that happened because of some poor choices I made, where I was able to come to him raw and admit all of this and express my deepest, darkest fears to him and have him come back in a deep love container for exactly who I was, and just his request of me continuing to love him changed everything. All of a sudden, I had the container I get to do for other people through my husband of safety and love, to step fully into this person I was becoming that scared the living crap out of me. It's the combination of all of it, right? Those situations, these major moments that were like make or break. That could have been the end of my relationship had I been in a different relationship. But I had to walk through that fire. It's going through those major moments, walking through the fire, walking through the shadows, and having the courage to do that while also allowing yourself to steep into the mundane moments, the quiet moments where the insights come through. It's all of it.
And the word that's coming up for me is self-trust.
Yeah, it's cultivating that and finding ways to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's hard to do alone. I couldn't have done it alone, and I know I am very fortunate, and I actually am going to record a podcast about this because the 9th anniversary, our first date, is coming up tomorrow as of this recording. That'll be after
Congratulations.
Everyone hears it, but I want to record a podcast about having being so fortunate to have the conscious container, the conscious partnership of a container, to be able to have this growth experience. A lot of my clients don't necessarily have that. They have beautiful marriages. They just don't necessarily have that in their partnership, and that's okay. But they need to have another container to give them that safety to start to flourish into who they really are.
Right. It's developing a skill. Absolutely. Yeah. And speaking of your podcast. I am so excited that you're launching this and you have some amazing guests on your
Mm.
podcast. So I'm wondering if you could just share a little bit about what people are going to experience when they listen to your
Uh,
podcast to Inspired Focus.
well, I'm so deeply grateful and fortunate that I've built a long career in business, that I've made some incredible deep relationships and have gotten to walk alongside people in their own transformations as friends, as business colleagues, as many different capacities. And that has allowed me a network to bring on people whose own stories inspired me in my transformations,
Mhm.
who are out there living out their visions, living out their dharma, living out their purpose, and making massive impacts, creating their own versions of wealth. Sometimes that's money, sometimes it's not. And being so open and willing to share that with us, and knowing that this path is not meant for a select few. It's meant for everyone. And more people are supposed to hear it. And it's been kept like this secret
Mhm.
for so long, but the world is changing and people are changing. The way that we operate and the way that we interact with power structures is completely changing. And the people that I get to interview have created their own paths, and they're doing it in a way where they wake up every day so excited about their life, like I get to now. And, I'm learning so much from each one of these people. And I just know that there's so much source of inspiration for people that, are ready to take that move, to take that leap, to step into the thing that's been calling to them, but they've been so afraid to admit.
Yeah, I was going to say that is who needs to hear the goodness
Yeah.
that is being shared in your podcast is that you're being pulled, you have that feeling, but you're still kind of like, can I do it? Should I do it? What will they think? So having your example of somebody who went through all of those and you can share that. I find that in my life, when I can hear somebody's story and go, wow, gosh, if they can do it, it opens up possibilities for me.
Totally.
And one thing that I think is, and I love the whole concept of living an aligned life. And I wonder how you define that.
Well, it's very interesting because, one thing too about listeners and inspiration is that I think a lot of people who feel a call don't know yet what it is as well. They just know, God, there's something more for me. And we have been brought up in a world where we're presented certain paths that we're supposed to follow. And everyone's experience of that is different. My husband, who grew up just outside of New York City's experience of the paths he was supposed to follow is very different from mine growing up in Colorado with a mom that grew up in Boulder. And, like we both had, but they were still boxed in and defined in their own ways. And there were still rules put around us and parameters that make it so we're like blinded to the things that really, really call to us, because somewhere along the line, we're told that's not okay, or that's not feasible, or whatever it is. So for me, getting into an aligned life is breaking down those layers, shedding that stuff, and helping you to find what is that for you? What is it that makes you so lit up And it's okay if you don't know what that is when you start down this path. I remember being so frustrated. Oh my God. I was so frustrated by all these like life coaching exercises and things about, what would you do if money weren't an object? Or what do you do that you spend all your free time on? Because they never aligned. Nothing of the answers that came out of those questions that we hear that are so common in trying to figure out your purpose aligned for me. I was like, well, if money wasn't a problem, I'd do nothing for a few months. That's what I would do. I would do nothing. Or, I was spending all of my free time, if I wanted to escape in my mind, going and searching for all of the travel destinations and dreaming up the next trip that we were going to take. And I love that stuff. Mm-hmm. But that wasn't pulling me to my purpose. What pulled me to my purpose, what got me into realizing what alignment is for me, was coming to a place of what are the things that at my deepest core I feel so excited about. And it took me shedding the layers to get there. And then where alignment comes in is starting to just say no if it doesn't get me closer to that. And cultivating deep, deep trust in myself and my co-creation with whatever you want to call it, universe, source, God, whatever. I don't care. At the great energy, quantum physics, like cultivating that level of trust to be able to say no if it doesn't get you one step closer to what feels so good in your soul.
I am so excited to get to be on this journey with you and learn with you through the guests that you're going to have on your podcast. And if people want to listen to the Inspired Focus podcast, where can they find it?
So you can go to inspiredfocus.co. That is my overall website. Or you can go to inspiredfocuspodcast.com. It is on all of the major platforms, including Apple and Spotify, as well as YouTube. And all of those links are on both of those websites, as well as the other ways you can work with me, like checking out my Baja retreat, Flourish Baja, that is happening May 21st through 26th and is now open for applications. If any of this kind of experience is what your soul is calling you for, I would love to talk to you about it.
Absolutely. And I think the big takeaway that I'm getting from our conversation here today is that, we feel that dissonance, and it's paying attention to that dissonance between what's pulling you, what you notice. And I love how you say it doesn't matter if you know exactly what it is or you can put words on it today. It's really more about acknowledging that it's there and knowing that there's someone like you who's been through that process and can actually help pull them forward to getting closer to understanding what that is. So their life is in alignment. And they have
so
that.
Good.
Yay, I can't wait to get a feeling. All right.
I love this so much.
Thanks, Jaime. And thank you for just making this time for this great conversation. And I'm going to encourage our listeners to tune in and make sure that you catch the first episode of the Inspired Focus podcast. Jaime interviews Molly Mahoney, who is a multi-7-figure business owner, and she helps her clients get more business with video. So be sure to listen in. You're not going to want to miss it. Thanks, Jaime.
Thank you so much. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe or follow us on Instagram at Inspired Focus Podcast. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Val. I can't wait for our next interview.
You too. Thank you.
I am Jaime O'Connor, and you are listening to the Inspired Focus Podcast. If you haven't already, head over to Instagram and give us a follow at Inspired Focus Podcast. You can also subscribe to your favorite platform by checking us out at inspiredfocuspodcast.com. If you're interested in learning more about how you can work with me or getting information about the next retreat, which is Flourish Baja, you can get that information at inspiredfocus.co. We will be living it up in Mexico from May 21st to May 26th, and I would love for you to join me. Check that out at inspiredfocus.co. See you soon.